Hello and welcome to another Criminals Dart Math video guide. This one's going to be a little bit different as it's not about checkouts particularly, but more of a philosophical video and more about the mindset and approach and how to count when you're playing darts. I think it's a pretty typical thing that we often do is we count up what we've scored when we're throwing. For example, we start the game with 501 and we throw single 20, triple 20, single 20. We count up, we've scored 100 there. And we subtract our 100, leaving us on 401. Now, what I notice is this also happens in the lower numbers, not just in the beginning of the game. It's okay if you want to do it in the beginning of the game. It's not a huge deal until you're in the 300s or so. But let's say you start with 144, okay? You just might be thinking, I have even numbers, so I'm going to throw with the 20s. There's a treble. There's a single. And now you're like, wait, what? What do I have left? I've scored 80 so far. So I got to stop, think, okay, 144 minus 80. Okay, that's 64. Now 64, I got to think about where do I go for the checkout. Okay, 64, I come over here. Okay, that's a bad way of thinking once you're in the checkout territory. Here's what you should be doing in your head. Once you're into that area where you're getting close to or already on a finish. If we take that same 144 example, we throw our first dart, we should not be thinking 60 scored. We should be thinking 84 left. Okay, 84 left. Where do we need to go? We want to stay here for double 12. But that way, if you're thinking 84 left, then you hit 20, you're thinking 64 left, then you can quickly know where to go with 64. It's just a slight change, but it made a huge difference for me. And I can tell a lot of people don't do this because in the Dart Connect software, obviously, you have your T-frame with your score, okay, and your opponent's score as well with everything you've scored here, okay? What I'll see is someone do this shot that we just talked about. Let's say they hit here. And then they're trying to add up what they scored. 60, 80, plus 48, 128, right? So they type in 128 here, and then it turns their score into 16. But this is what I'm doing and what a good player is doing in their head. They're thinking 84 left, 64 left, 16 left. And what you can do in Dart Connect is if I type in 16, but then click up here on my score, it'll do the math for me. I have no idea what I've scored. 128, who cares? What I do know is that I have 16 left. This is how I know that a lot of people aren't thinking that way. You want to think of what's left because all that matters is the number that you're going to have and how many darts are in your hand and the target you need to throw when you're shooting for that number. Let's look at another example here. 136. Again, the perfect route, by the way, is treble 20, double 8. But if you don't know that, you might think, okay, what have I scored? Let's say we miss. Let's slop into the 1. Now you're thinking, okay, whatever, I just got to hit 20, 20, it's fine. 41 scored. What did I leave? I left myself 95. Yikes, that's not the best number to leave myself. So what should we be thinking instead? We hit the 1. Now we know we have 135 left. If we want to stay on 20s, it's fine. We should think 115 left. 115 left with 1 dart. Where do we want to go? We want to go either to the bull or to the 19s to avoid leaving 95. To leave a better number like 96 or 90, even better. And again, we're not thinking what we've scored. We're thinking what we have left. As we count, we should be thinking what remains. Here's another situation where this will definitely come into play. Let's say we start out our turn with 222. Now I'm going to do a separate video on bogeys, but what happens if we start on 222 and we go 20, 20, 20? 60 scored, 162. Uh-oh. We're on a bogey. We want to avoid that. So what we should be thinking in our head is 202, 182. We got to switch. Now we know that we have 164 remaining. Didn't matter that it happens to add up to 58. What I knew in my head is that I was on 164. If you start counting down like this, you're going to find that you're going to leave yourself on a bad number less often, and you're going to start to recognize the situations where you can get to a better number. Okay? Let's say we start on 77. Okay? A couple things we want to think about. First is, if you're not comfortable with the checkouts yet, plan your entire turn before you go to the hockey. So 77. Don't just think, okay, treble 19, double 10. If that's all that's in your head and you're not comfortable with the math yet, then what's inevitably going to happen is you're going to hit this single 19 and you're going to stop and you're going to think, okay, 77 minus 19, what is that, 50, let's see, let's subtract 20 is 57 plus 1, so 58. Oh, 58. Okay, 58, I want to go here to here. And now I've broken my rhythm, I've stopped everything. So let's erase that from our minds. First thing we want to do, I have 77 left. If I don't know the math, I want to think not just of where my first start needs to be, but what happens if I hit the single? Okay, let's plan on hitting the single. We're going to hit that way more often than the treble. So before I shoot, I should think 77 minus 19 is 18. So now I know, okay, if I hit a single 19, I got to go to single 18 in order to get to tops. That's what I know already. As you get more advanced, you can even think, what happens if I hit a 7? 7. I got 70 left. I need treble 10 for tops. 3. I got 74 left. Treble 14 for treble 16. You can start to do this very quickly if you're comfortable, right? Doesn't matter what I hit. I can do the math and no problem because I know it. But what's also key is I'm planning my turn ahead and I'm counting down. Don't hit here and think I've scored 19. That doesn't help you. You should think I have 58 left. Then you can know what to do on 58. Okay, this also makes a difference in those combination checkouts where we talked about leaving the bullseye, that section of the 80s. Okay, let's look at a checkout like 86. Again, don't fall into the trap of just thinking where your first start needs to go. Sure, it's good to know that treble 18 leaves double 16. But what about our second dart? What happens when we hit single 18? You want to think in your head before the shot. I should know that 86 minus 18 is 68 before I go. And I should know that with 68 and 2 darts, 18 for the bullseye is my shot. The point I want to drive home is once you're really under, let's say, 300, maybe under 310, you should be considering what you're leaving on. Now, of course, professionals are starting to count from the very beginning of the leg. For now, at least start with 235 and below. At least. More details on that in the next video. But just keep in mind, you don't want to count up. You're counting down. Think about what's left. And then you just know how to finish what's left if you've studied and understand the checkouts. So again, one more example. Let's look at, I finished like 114. Okay, the perfect way to go about this is treble 18 for 60, 20 to 40. But again, what happens when we hit the single? We need to be counting down. We shouldn't have to stop and do this math. We should have planned ahead. I should know that if I hit single 18, it's going to leave me 96. And I know 96 is treble 20 to double 18. I should also plan ahead for what happens if I slop. The reason that we're going 18s on 114 is because I have slop over here. I should plan ahead that the 4 leaves 110, and 110 with 2 darts is treble 20 to the bullseye. I hope this video makes sense, guys, because when I learned to count down, it was an eye-opener for me. It made things so much easier. And what I want to see this season is people utilizing that feature in the Dart Connect, where you have your score left, again, whatever you've hit so far. And what you should be doing is typing in what you are remained, what you've left remaining, and clicking up here. And it'll do the math for you, so you don't have to. You shouldn't be thinking about what you've scored. Think about what is left. That's what you need to hit to. So consider that the next time you're on the Aki. Start to practice that as you practice the checkouts. And I hope that mindset helps you avoid bogeys, leave better finishes, and get to the double easier. Thanks, guys.